Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the pleasure and honor of having Hamid Kohan, with LegalSoft. And it's always a pleasure to have you aboard, Hamid. You always bring a lot of great stuff to the table, and I'm excited to be picking your brain again today.
Thank you, Ken. It's nice to see you again. And I know we had several of these episodes, and it's always great speaking with you and sharing information with you.
All right. We'll talk 2 or 3 subjects today. Let's talk about, AI was real hot. It's kind of cooled off a little bit. I see it around, but not like I did 6 or 8 months ago. What do you see as the impact of AI on law firms?
Sure. So you're right. It got really hot, especially when people like EvenUp came up, and then other CRM companies like Clio, Firewine, Ledify, they all sort of jump on that, and they start having their own implementation. Then we saw a lot of things online about intake AI, demand AI, and all this other stuff that affects. And e-discovery got a big hit from using AI, and we're speaking with a lot of those folks. So it took a while to actually clean it up, to find out what's real, what's not, what's practical, what's not, what is just Chat GPT and dressed up as a new legal AI. So we have a team of probably like 15 people in our AI department that are not only researching everything that is out there, but also developing what we think it should be an effective AI tool for law practices. So even we found out a lot of people who claiming that they're doing demands on AI was 80% manual work. People actually writing it and running it to the AI platform, which it took a long time and it was not as effective. So there's a lot of cleanup to do. I think the dust will settle probably Q1 of 25, but the firm should be aware of what's going on and what they can actually practically use that shows effect. Like we did a test with an intake AI for a consumer protection firm and see if the AI can actually retain a client. It did. It wasn't the best result, but it actually retained the client as a full AI implementation. So it did the intake, it sent the retainer and sort of walked them through signing the retainer and got the retainer back, which is kind of cool when you see it in action. But we tried also a bunch of other ones that didn't work. And it looked like too much delay, too much, wrong questions and things like that. So it's a cleanup mode. We just finished our demand writing AI, which was compared with what the industry is. And our target, for example, because we have captured clients with a personal injury, for example, to see if it's meets or beats some attorneys' demand writing skill set. So we got a 10 experienced PI attorneys who go from extremely picky to average, and we put them into the sort of a focus group. So we created very plain demands for them, from litigation demand to pre-litigation demand, and have them rate it to see if they did it themselves, how this would rate against them writing the entire demand. We started at a 46%, and now we are at 78 to 82%. So that's the kind of a thing that you need to do to release an AI package that actually helps the attorneys and doesn't create a new work for them or extra work for them. So that's the kind of the things that we've been involved in AI, and being able to utilize it to reduce the cost and speed up the process by using one single tool and not get crowded with a whole bunch of different noise-making AI.
Right. Are you using AI with LegalSoft in any way? I mean, as far as with the virtual assistants, are you?
Yes, we're actually training our virtual staff now. We're training them just like how to use Filevine and Clio and CasePeer and those guys. Now we're training them how to use the AI, because continuously developing their skill set, using the AI for the research they do, especially the people who doing like a discovery or the demands or things like that, which is our higher grade visual staff that we provide. So now we're teaching them how to actually do the AI to generate letters, responses to the clients, doing discovery. So we are using it ourselves also. So we are both provider of AI technology and the user of AI technology.
Yeah, I was I was at a law firm Monday actually, and I was talking to one of the staff people, and they're using a little bit of AI. But she says, I was real scared AI was going to take my job. She says, but I've come to the conclusion it's just going to help me be more efficient. And I said, that's true. I said, it's not going to take a paralegals or a case manager. I'm not saying it won't take some people's jobs, but for the most part, I think in the PI industry, I don't think it's going to take anybody's job.
Yeah, it will definitely replaces and takes over some people's job, like you mentioned, on the admin level or on the research level. Like, we use AI to do a lot of research, but it's not going to replace a paralegal. If anything, if it's trained and implemented properly, the productivity of the paralegal should double by using AI. So like a lot of paralegals right now, part of their work is preparing all the information for the case for mediation or doing it for trial prep or writing a demand. A lot of paralegals are tasked to write more simpler demands. All of those, they can use AI to do it so they can go do other things that AI can't do. I think that's going to be a biggest impact. Like in our demand writing, when it hits like 80% completion and accuracy, like where we are right now, I think 80% of attorneys who have either doing it themselves or the associates or paralegals, they can relieve that specific part away and have the AI just do the demands. It takes them 5 minutes. So nobody should have a backlog of demands because that's what I see a big critical piece within the process of the PI is they're behind always on demands. And if you don't send out the demands, you don't get settlements, you don't get paid. Now you have cash flow issue because you never issued the demand.
Yeah, I think the big three bottlenecks is getting medical records in, getting the demands out, and then once you get the check in, getting the liens worked out. That's the three biggest ones, I think.
That's exactly it. So people who are actually involved in the process like you are and you've been coaching and teaching them to do this is exact three pieces that I come across all the time too. It's like, if you don't have the medical record, you can't do a demand. If you don't do the demands, you have no settlement. You have no settlements, you have no money. And it is funny, Ken, that how a lot of practicing attorneys don't realize that. And they have learned to accept it. That is hard to collect the medical records from providers. Okay, it's hard, but still you got to do it. Or is okay to have, be behind 30 demands. Well, that's just money in the pipeline that you're not getting. So they learn over time to live with it, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Accepting mediocrity is not the way to scale a law firm for sure.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, this is another big deal that's going on. I don't know if you looked at it. I just looked at it last week. The ABA, the American Bar Association, has come out with a model rules of ethics for AI, what you can and can't do with AI. Of course, that's just a model. But I think what you're going to start seeing, usually when the ABA comes out with something, different states will look at it and they'll take parts of it, maybe change a little bit of it. But I think you're going to start seeing, there's already some states doing it. I don't know all of them, but I think any lawyer that's getting ready to use AI ought to go and check their state bar ethics, see if there's any opinions, if there's any rules, any kind of anything out there on AI, because you don't want to get in trouble. You want to do it the right way, right?
Exactly. And it's going to be a while before they actually, even the ABAs, understand what's going on with the AI, because it takes a lot of research and a lot of technology and the data information and algorithms try to figure it out. But I know you're right. They just started looking this stuff, publishing and issuing some guidance and so forth. It was sort of the same scenario like 7-8 years ago when we started with virtual staffing, where people like, I don't know, somebody overseas globally doing this, doing that, and whatever. And a few months ago, actually, one of the American Bar Associations reached out to us and hired a couple of virtual staff from us, which was a great confirmation that If it's good enough for the bar association, it's good enough for all the attorneys. So that was a great compliment. They actually reached out to us, which was very, very interesting. That they're usually conservative and they're not on the front edge of things, but now we have a ABA as a client.
That's wild. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was an interesting breakthrough.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and then we'll come back to AI. But we talked before we got on this call today, or this Zoom video, referral networks. So you're real big on referral networks. So I want you to talk about it.
Sure. We see a huge trend in California on the referral network. When the firms are starting to scale and grow and the numbers getting bigger and bigger, and they get some financial analytics and so forth to figure out exactly what is their net, just like a normal business would do, like what's my gross margin, what is my net profits, what's my net gain, when they calculate all the costs and everything, they're figuring out that the percentage-wise, they're not really making as much as they thought they are because they were not calculating the cost of operation properly. So now that they do, I did this for a couple of firms where the net profit was less than 27% per case average, right? So when they did that, and then we looked at the referral network and says, in California, it's sort of minimum 1/3, 33%. In PI, it can go as high as 40, 50% of the net attorney's fees. A lot of attention came, and we implemented this for several larger firms where why work on the stuff you don't want to work on, or why use your infrastructure for something that is not going to be profitable. To give you an example, in California, since the minimum policy is 1530s, which basically means even if they get policy, they get $5,000 on the case a year and a half into a case. And it costs every firm that I know in California more than $5,000 in the course of the case, just their cost. So every time they get one of those cases, it's okay, how much am I going to lose on this case, right? So we switched that and said, like, work with a firm that refers out like 30, 40 cases a month, and they get 40% of the net attorney's fees doing nothing. They just do the initial, basically, screening of the intake. So it got really sweet. And they said, you know what? Let's just refer most of the stuff out so I can cherry pick what I want to work on. But it needs to have a system in place for it, because the tracking and monitoring it is very tricky. Because you would think when I'm sending cases to 10 different firms all over the place, they're going to be on top of it. They're going to do the right amount of work. They're going to remember that it came from me when they're getting paid so they can send me my share. None of that stuff is a myth. There's no such thing at all. They can't even track their own stuff. So not alone tracking it for you, if you give them a case 2.5 years ago that just got settled. So I always use this joke, going to Cala in a couple of weeks, and this joke is started at Cala. It says, some people showed me a check that they got on the referral. It says, look, Hamid, I got this $30,000 referral check. I'm so happy I'm going to spend it in Vegas this weekend. And I'm like, this is not right. For every one of those checks, you don't know how many you didn't get. He goes, yeah, you're right. I never thought about it that way. Every time I saw the check, it felt like he got a gift. It's not gift, it's earned. You gave him the case 2.5 years ago. Now you got paid on it, and you think, no, that's amazing. So we set up this whole system for the firms, and the couple of firms that I've worked with, they refer up to 500 cases a month. They gone completely in the referral system. They don't even want to handle a case. So they get them, screen them, set them up, and refer them out to the firm, but for a very generous referral fee. But on the back end of it, we develop a system where everything can be tracked, monitored. So every month there's like a case review, get the exact status of where the case is at, if it's dropped, if it's settled, if it's in demand, if it's in settlement. So we almost like we own the firm because we manage the entire case process. We just don't work on it. We just check the statuses. So we update and we make sure we get paid on every single case. I don't care if it was referred to you 4.5 years ago or yesterday.
Do you have access to their case management system?
Some we do, some we don't. The ones we don't, we have our own online tracking system. It is mandated that it gets updated bi-weekly or monthly on a regular basis. So it's not like me calling Ken and say, Ken, you remember that case I gave you? And you're like, okay, let me check with my assistant or my case manager and find. No, I need to know because that case could be my six-figure referral fee or even a $10,000 referral fee. It doesn't matter. But I got a firm that is generating for themselves about $30 million worth of fees a year. And this is net. This is basically your only cost is the marketing. It's not any operation. There's no attorneys involved other than the principal attorney, no case managers, no paralegals, no legal assistants. And he's generating $30 million worth of value a year and 100% referral system.
Yeah, I know some lawyers doing that. You're not going to believe this, Hamid, but 30 years ago, I came to the same conclusion that it takes just as much time to work on a case that's worth 50,000 as it is a case that's worth 10,000. Okay.
Yes.
So I went out and found a couple of younger lawyers that were hungry and didn't have a big caseload, so that I knew that they'd look after them. And then what I did, I had several satellite offices where I had a receptionist in there, and I would give that receptionist a job of sending them an email every month saying, these are your list of clients. Check whether or not they're still treating, whether they've been released, whether the man's out, or whether they negotiate. You know what I'm saying? Or is it going to litigation? All you got to do is check a box. And that way I kind of kept track of it. And it reminded them that, hey, you're going to owe me a fee when all this is over with.
Yes.
And it kind of kept me up with it. It was very archaic. You know, I didn't have a lot of technology 30 years ago. It was a good way because just like you said, I was getting a third and I was only netting 26%. That way I didn't have to hire more help too. What I'm saying is I could let my workers work on cases that had more value.
And you're not clouding your system and your infrastructure by having, these 6-7 figure cases that could really bring the value. It needs the attention. It needs all of that. Then you got 30, 40 of these, small cases or small policies or liabilities in question. And then you would just sort of like feel like you're forced to do it. No, you're not forced to. There's always somebody's garbage is somebody else's treasure, right? So and there's plenty of people I have on both sides. I have 50 PI firms on one side wanting to get referral cases, doesn't matter what size they are. I have the other 50 on this side who don't want to work with anything that is not, 75K or more. So I just match them up with the system, match them up, and then they do the referral system. But we do it systematically, even finding the referrals. I have this client with the employment industry, employment law, and his focus has been mainly class action. But you got to go through a lot of single action cases to get the class. So he was doing it, and he was always miserable going through all the small cases to get a class action case. So I set him up under building a referral network through LinkedIn with a dedicated person who he does bi-directional. He sends them the singles and he gets the class from them. So it's a beautiful marriage where he's connected now to about like 60 law firms, formally, officially trackable, that he gives single action cases to and gets class actions back. It's a perfect system. It's like almost he doesn't need to advertise much at all anymore because he has now 60 law firm as a resource.
The only thing I ever worried about referring these cases out is that if they got into a real bad wreck or their mother or father got in a bad wreck, they might go back to that lawyer I referred it to. But you got to weigh your pros and cons, and I still went with it. I mean, there's nothing perfect, but
in the past that made a lot of sense because the competitiveness wasn't there. It's like you served somebody 40 years ago, their kids and grandkids all come to you, their neighbors come to you. But nowadays, when somebody needs help, especially legal help, via the social media and every other type of media, they get hijacked like 10 times before they even remember who Ken was, or try to look for your number or your email or something like that. By the time I actually want to think about it, I've been approached, hit, hijacked 10 times before I find Ken. So that loyalty doesn't exist anymore. If that loyalty existed, half of the firms that are marketing and advertising wouldn't have to, because they practice 30 years, so they should have a very good base and all the referrals that comes from it. It doesn't work like that anymore.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I did it
referral
anyway.
time is very big, especially multi-state referral. I even have firms who gone completely marketing round, even though they're attorneys and they practice and so forth, and says, look, I can generate PI cases or employment cases or mass tort cases in 6, 7 favorable states and refer them to those firms over there and just sit back and collect the money. I don't need to have 50 people working in my firm to make that money. I just need 3 or 4 people with maintenance and tracking and accounting of it and so forth. And we're good to go. I don't need to have that infrastructure.
Absolutely. So what do you see? What's the next big thing coming out? I mean, your state's close to the ground. You know what's going around out there in technology. What's the next big deal? What do you think?
In the technology or the practice type?
Either one.
The practice type, I think the multi-estate, other than the referrals network, the multi-estate practices, which was only reserved for a bigger firm where it can have physical presence in all these estates and hired licensed attorneys in those estates. And it was sort of like was catered only for the big boys doing it. Now, with the virtual implementations, with all the technology, and UBE attorney's license, which is the UBE, the universal bar exam that they can take, essentially, I can hire an attorney tomorrow, and within the year, I can have him licensed in 39 states in 1 year. So he can sign retainers, he can appear, he can delegate appearance. But I have one attorney that can look like 39 attorneys. So that barrier is broken. Now you can get attorneys to do that. It's like a PI in California is overly saturated with attorneys and law firms, right? So I worked with a dozen firms where we got a UBE attorney, and now they're practicing literally in 5 states in 1 year that are favorable in the PI. And we know which those states are because LegalSoft is a nationwide organization. So we know exact cost of client acquisition for any type of a practice in any state because we have a lot of data because of our engagement with all these law firms from East Coast to West Coast. So we know that the PI case in Texas is at $1,600 cost of client acquisition versus the same case in California could cost you $3,200. So you're like, I'm buying a case here for 32, I can buy it there for 16, so I'm just going to buy it in Texas, right? So the same process, the same thing. As a fact, the Texas minimum policy is $2,550, California is $1,530. So here I'm buying it more expensive and selling it for less. Over there, I'm buying it for less and selling it for more. So, I use this terminology because I look at the law practice a lot from a business sense of it and operation costs and operation senses, not like, oh, I had a great mediation or I had a very effective deposition or our discovery is just top notch. I look at, you're in there to make it into business and make money. So how much I'm buying it for, how long I'm going to keep the case, and how long it's going to take before I sell it, and what is my net profits? Pretty simple process.
And just saying that makes me think that the money coming into Arizona with these non-legal owners with the hedge fund money or whatever, that you're going to see a lot of that. It's probably already going on. We just don't know about it.
Absolutely. Even when you look at the Morgan & Morgan, which everybody's familiar with, in the past 2 years, they completely shifted and put a lot of resource. I worked with them into a referral network. They actually created what's called Morgan & Morgan Connect, which is a separate group with attorneys and staff and everything that only does nationwide referrals. So they basically come to me in California and say, how many PI leads can you give us every week, every month, every day? And we give you access to a platform. They develop a platform, but that's for people who want to work with Morgan & Morgan, for example. So there's a lot of that happening where the money is coming into the legal industry, but it's coming for the sense of business, not for the sense of big litigations or big nationwide cases and things like that. It's more like how am I going to make a business? It's like a merchandising. How much I buy a case for? How long do I work on it? What my cost is, and what is my net profit? That's why we've been in LegalSoft, been involved moving so many operations and expanding them into Arizona and Texas from California, because of the dynamic of ability to buy cases and work on it, the labor cost, the operation cost, and how we, so we taken expanded a lot of those firms in a matter of like 90 days to have a full operation in Arizona, Texas, Colorado, and things like that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's where we're heading. I mean, that's where we're already at. I mean, yeah, I know several firms that are, Morgan wants referrals, but I know several firms that he's referring cases to, and they're paying him a referral fee. And some of them have turned out to be six-figure cases. What I'm saying is they're not just junk. I mean, maybe they thought it was junk when they referred it, but I mean, I've seen some lawyers hit some $300,000-$400,000 settlements on some cases he referred them.
Yeah, one of the firms, not even a huge firm, last week it was sent me a screenshot of one of his checks that he got from a referral case. $300,000 check he got as a referral. Okay, that he didn't touch or did any work for. So is a $300K net profit is equal to getting $1 million net attorney's fees. When you're getting it 3 years later, this firm and probably 5 people in it worked on this case for 3.5 years. So I've all of that expense, the headache, the client issue, the defense issue, all this other stuff. And this guy just got a $300,000 check. I didn't do nothing other than just refer the case out. So it can be that big. Not obviously every check is a 6-figure, but look, is net means a lot that I got $300K without doing any work.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Good deal. Anything else out there going on?
That, and I think the importance of, online presence, which you guys are pretty strong with, is getting bigger and bigger. And then this week I was reviewing 36 law firms that came across my radar that I was engaged with. And I went to every single one of these firms' online presence, which is like Facebook, Instagram, website, TikTok, and all of that. And I still see like 80% of these folks are way behind on updating this stuff. It's like I don't know what they're thinking, but without a proper, effective, engaging online presence, you can't operate or grow. It's just, some people just say, oh, it's just a website. Oh, it's just my social. It's not like that. I don't know why they say that. I always use this example. It's like, I want to go to dinner with my kids. You want to spend $200-$300, and they check out this restaurant's online presence so much. It's like I'm buying a business or something, and you only want to spend. So it is a new culture. They check that out before they even call you, email you, contact you, or refer you, nothing. They go check you out. So you can't ignore the quality of your online presence, your effectiveness, engagement of it. And I was so surprised, out of these 36 firms, about 26 of them were so outdated that it looked like I went to a site from, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you get involved, your organization gets involved in a lot of this online presence and coaching them and so forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good deal. Good deal. Any parting words?
Nothing. Treat your organization like you expect other corporates setting up, managing, and tracking organization. It's not just a law firm anymore. It's a law firm, and it's a corporation, and it's a business, and it needs infrastructure and needs tracking. It just doesn't work like it used to 20 years ago.
No, it doesn't. And they don't teach you this stuff in law school either. So
no, not at all. I got 2 kids in law school, so I know exactly what they teach them, and none of this they're teaching them.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, thank you so much. And if anybody wants to get up with you or talk to LegalSoft about hiring a virtual assistant?
Sure, legalsoft.com is where we are, and there's a lot of resources there and a lot of help. They contact us. We put them in touch with our growth managers, and all the consultation, all the meetings, and everything is for free. So please, look us up and join us or track us on the LegalSoft on Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast. the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.